In this video, I'm going to go through a couple different examples of the different types of problems you might come across when you're solving equations. While you are solving these problems, I want you to have your note card out just as a reference for how to solve equations so that we can look at the steps. And I also want you to be following along on this sheet of paper that you have on your page. You're going to be using it throughout the video. So we're going to start off going through question number 1 together. If I look at my note card, I can see that my first step when I'm solving this type of an equation is to draw a wall. So I'm going to draw a wall through my equal sign. My step number 2 is to simplify both sides. So if there's anything that I can distribute or any terms that I can combine on one of the sides of my equal sign, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Well, on this side, there's nothing that I can simplify. It's just a number. Over here, though, I've got a number and then parentheses and then another, and then I've got 2 terms within my parentheses. Whenever I see something like that, I have to remember to distribute. So I'm going to be distributing that -6 inside of my parentheses. The -6 goes to my first term, 5p. The -6 goes to my second term, 3. When I do that, when I've got a number and then something inside of parentheses, the operation that's in between these two things is multiplication. So I'm going to take my -6 and multiply it first with the first term, 5p, plus, I'm going to take my -6 again, -6, and multiply it with my second term, 3. And that's all equal to whatever was on the other side of my equal sign. I'm just going to bring it down, 162. Okay, now I need to keep on simplifying this side, so I can't do anything until I know what this is equal to. So -6 times 5p is going to give me 30p. And -6 times 3 is going to give me, a -30p is going to give me a -18. Okay, and on this side of my equal sign, my 162 is just brought down. Okay, now I've simplified everything on this side. There are no like terms that I can combine. Same thing with this side. So I have simplified both sides to as much as I can. So my next step is to subtract the smaller variable term. Well, if I look at this equation, I only have one variable term. There's no other variable in my equation. So I can actually leave this variable term exactly where it is. It does not need to move. That step is only for when I have 2 variable terms in my equation. So my next step is to do the inverse of addition or subtraction. So I want to take a moment in this equation and identify where do I have addition or subtraction. And that's going to be right here with this -18. Since it's being subtracted, my inverse operation of subtraction, I'm going to add 18 to both sides. Okay. When I do that over here, I'll have 2 plus 8, which will give me 10. And then 1 plus 6 is going to give me 7. 7 plus 1 is going to give me 8. And I'm going to bring down that 1. Is equal to, over here, I'm going to bring down my -30p. And this 18 business over here is going to cancel out. It's just going to go away. Okay, my next step is to do the inverse of multiplication or division. So I'm going to take a look and identify where do I have multiplication or division in this problem. when I've got a number that's really close to a variable right next to it. The operation that's in between is multiplication. So to get rid of this negative 30, I have to divide both sides by that whole number, negative 30, is equal to, okay, when I do that on this side, my negative 30 is going to cancel out. I'm just left with p. On the other side, I've got to simplify this expression. I have a fraction and both numbers end in zeros. I can just cross those zeros out if both numbers end in a zero. So really, I'm taking 18 divided by a negative 3, which will give me 18 divided by 3 gives me 6. And since I've got a positive number divided by a negative number, that 6 is going to be negative. Okay? So looking at your steps in this equation, I want you to solve number 2 and number 3 on your own. You're going to check your answer in the video. Go ahead and pause the video now to solve. Okay, we're going to move on to problem number 4. So at this point you should have solved problems number 2 and 3. You're going to look down to number 4 and we're going to walk through this one together. So looking at my note card or using my note card, my first step in this equation is to draw a wall. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that wall. My next step is to simplify both sides. So I need to distribute or combine like terms if I can. So if I look at the left-hand side, can I distribute or combine like terms? No, 38 and k are not like terms. There's also no parentheses, so I don't need to distribute anything. What about over here? Can we distribute or combine like terms? Which should we do first? Okay, I've got to do my distribution first. It's kind of like going back to order of operations. Multiplication comes before I end up adding anything. So first I've got to distribute, and I'm going to distribute this negative 2 into what's inside of parentheses. So when I do that, I'm going to have negative 2 times the first term, 3k, plus negative 2 times the second term, 6. And this plus 8 is just going to come right down below, plus 8. Because there was nothing to do on this side, I'm just going to bring it down, 38 plus k. Okay, now I'm going to simplify and multiply what I can over on this side, is equal to, so negative 2 times 3 is going to give me a negative 6, and the k is just attached to that. Negative 2 times 6 is going to give me a negative 12, and then I'm going to bring down my plus 8. My 38 plus k just gets brought down. 38 plus k. Okay, now I want to ask myself, am I done simplifying both sides? Are there any terms that I can distribute? Do you still see parentheses? Are there any terms that I can combine? Okay, so on this side of my equation, I've got some like terms. Negative 12 plus 8. Those are two terms that I can combine. So when I do that, negative 12 plus 8, I've got 12 negatives and 8 positives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. When I cross them out, I'm going to be left with 4 negatives. So minus 4. And I'm going to bring down everything else. So negative 6k and my 38 plus k. Now looking at this step, is there anything else that we can simplify or combine on one side of my equals sign? Nope, and that's it. Neither of these sides have any more like terms. So looking at my steps, my next step, step 3, is to subtract the smaller variable term. So looking at both of these variable terms, a couple of you have noticed that you can either choose to add your smaller variable term, so add 6k to both sides, or I could subtract k from both sides. Either step, you'll end up at the same place no matter what you do. So I'm going to get rid of this 6k over here by adding 6k to both sides, plus 6k. Okay, when I do that, so my 38, that was not affected by my 6k, it's just going to be brought down. 38. 6k plus 1k is going to give me plus a 7k is equal to, my 6k's are going to cancel out. I'll just be left with negative 4. Okay, my next step is to do the inverse of addition or subtraction. So really in this step, I want to get k by itself by the end of this equation. So next to k I've got this 7, but that 7 is being multiplied, so I can't get rid of it. On the same side of k is this 38. That's being added with this 7k. I can also put a plus in front of my 38, a plus. To know that to get rid of that 38, I'm going to subtract it from both sides. I'm going to subtract 38 from both sides. Okay, when I do that, over here my 38s are going to cancel out. I'm just going to be left with 7k is equal to, over here if I've got negative 4 minus 38, well those are the same sign, so I'm just going to end up with 38 negatives and then another 4 negatives. So I'm going to, when I count those up, I would essentially add those two numbers and end up with a negative in front. So 38 plus 4 is going to get me to 42, a negative. Okay, my last step is to do the inverse of multiplication or division. Where do I have multiplication in this problem? Great. My 7 times k tells me to multiply the 2. So to get rid of that multiplication, to get rid of that 7, I'm going to divide by 7 on both sides. When I do that, my 7 is going to cancel out, so I'm just left with k equals negative 42 divided by a positive 7. Well, a negative divided by a positive gives me a negative. And 42 divided by 7 is going to give me 6. So in the end, k will equal a negative 6. Go ahead and solve these two problems on your own. You can check your work in the video. Continue with this sheet on Monday. So make sure that you put it in your folder once you're done and you bring it to class on Monday with you. But for now, that's the end of this video. We'll go over these types of problems on the back on Monday, so make sure that you do not lose this sheet.